SEC의 패소를 확신하고 있는 리플의 CEO. 그는 리플의 기술이 워낙 뛰어나기에 리플을 규제하는 미국에서도 결국 리플은 뿌리를 내리게 될 것이라 말합니다. 그가 말하는 리플에 대한 확신과 장기적인 로드맵은 과연 무엇일지 자세히 살펴보겠습니다.
I think it's very clear the SEC now they lost 3 times with Ripple. They lost, I know the CEO of Grayscale is on, they lost the Grayscale case. The judge said that the SEC was being arbitrary and capricious. I mean, this is damning language from a federal judge. I also happen to believe, as long as I'm on a roll here, look, at some point when you have you keep trying to do the same thing and you keep having the same outcome, at some point you change your approach. Well, I hope it would be magical if Chair Gensler got up here and said, hey, we're going to change our approach. We have lost time and time and time again, so let's step back. Apparently we haven't had it right because the judicial branch is saying we keep getting it wrong. And so it would be great to have that constructive dialogue.
So you mentioned that there was a win in the Ripple case and in the Grayscale case, or a loss on the other hand for the SEC. But of course, those aren't the only high-profile cases the SEC is currently pursuing. They've brought cases against Binance, against Coinbase. Does the Ripple case teach us anything about what might happen in those cases? How do you view the debate around XRP in the context of those cases?
Look, I've followed the Coinbase case a little more closely, and so maybe I can comment there a little bit more. I think that the challenge has been, and again, even if you read or listen to what the judge has said in some of the early Coinbase procedural stuff, the SEC is not trending well there. And again, if at some point you would think if you keep getting losses, you would say, okay, wait a minute, let's step back, let's reevaluate. Or even better, let's be part of championing a legislative solution. Let's not go to Congress and testify and say, the laws are clear. The laws clearly could be much clearer at a minimum. And I think what we're seeing in the Coinbase case, the world is not just a simple Howey test. And we have seen some momentum around legislative solutions. Obviously, Washington, it's hard to get things passed in Washington. In some ways, that's a good thing. In some ways, that's bad. But I'm hopeful that in 2024, we do see some legislative momentum that actually does provide that clarity. And it would be a magical thing if the SEC were part of that, working constructively with the industry to find that right path.
Well, you say you're hopeful that something happens legislatively, but ultimately the way things are going right now, do you think more clarity is likely to come from Congress, or is it just going to continue to come from the courts and the judicial branch?
I think that's a question for Chair Gensler. I mean, right now, he has taken an approach of regulation through enforcement. That is not in my judgment, constructive way to regulate. Look, one of the things that is most frustrating about this, I mean, Ripple spent well over $150 million defending that case. There is no recourse.
So as we talk about this litigation, do you think if there is an appeal in your case or in one of the other cases we've talked about, that ultimately this ends up with the Supreme Court, that this goes all the way to the top?
I think that definitely could happen, 100%. The U.S. used to be looked at as a leader from securities regulation and protecting consumers. The way the SEC has approached this in the United States, we are looked at here in the U.S. relative to other countries as stuck. The other countries are absolutely leading. The UK, I could name 5 or 6 countries, Japan, even Australia, Switzerland, Singapore. I mean, these are all countries that are leading. And by virtue of that, you're seeing capital investment. You're seeing entrepreneurs set up shop in those countries because the rules are clear.
Or does the U.S. just need to be doing something different, but taking that regulatory approach differently?
Chair Gensler likes to talk about crypto as the Wild West. It is absolutely not the Wild West. Ripple is a regulated company in many jurisdictions around the world. In Singapore, we have our license from MAS as a major payments provider. In the UK, we have, in Dubai, we've applied for the virtual asset regulatory, VARA, I can't remember what the A stands for. But, it's not the Wild West, and I think it's a narrative.
So even if things were to get friendlier in the US, would you all of a sudden shift back here? How are you thinking about the long term for Ripple?
Well, look, I mean, a majority of our employees are still US-based. So if you zoom out far enough, do I think 10 years from now the US is going to figure this out and have a constructive regulatory framework for crypto? 1,000%. better technologies almost always win in the end. And I truly believe blockchain technologies are a path to reducing friction for financial transactions to the benefit of many industries. The irony to me around that is one of the core benefits around crypto, particularly around payments, are customers who can least afford the cost of remittances are actually burdened the most. So I'm talking about immigrant populations sending millions, billions of dollars into other countries, and they're paying, the World Bank would say 600 to 700 basis points. That's outrageous. Again, so for me, it's surprising that it is not more bipartisan and that we would have seen kind of something pass already. But again, I think there's still hope, and I think now that we have a Speaker of the House, maybe we'll make progress. The geopolitical benefit to the United States, not just economic, has been massive because we created the right environment for entrepreneurs and capital to flow into a next generational technology framework. Blockchain is a next generational technology framework. It is going to touch many, many industries. I would agree with people who say, well, right now there's too much speculation. I agree. We need more clear, constructive uses of these technologies to solve industry problems. But you're seeing more and more companies doing that, and you're seeing more and more traction. The United States should get behind that. We want these technologies to emanate here. We want to have that. And for whatever reasons, I think the SEC is part of the problem there.
Well, let's talk about Ripple, though, and the utility there. What's institutional adoption looking like?
Outside the United States, it's been great. When Ripple got sued December 22nd, 2020, Q1 of 2021, we didn't know what was going to happen. Outside of the United States, regulators were like, we don't understand what the SEC is doing, and we continued. 2021 and 2022 were some of our best years ever. The primary measure we use to measure growth is around payment volume. We went from doing tens of millions to hundreds of millions to billions of dollars of transactions at a time when we're in the middle of this massive lawsuit with the SEC. So other countries, again, have engaged constructively. They see how these technologies can be used to improve payment flows. They see how cross-border settlement works today. It's slow, it's expensive. Actually, the head of the Italian central bank, I'm forgetting his name right now, he just wrote an opinion piece in the Financial Times about how broken cross-border payments are. It's 2023, and these are technologies that actually the U.S. is trying to stymie. It doesn't make sense. So, I take a very long view. The big picture around these technologies, I'm very much a multi-chain viewpoint. Yes, XRP is extremely good at some use cases, and payments is clearly one. Frankly, one of the silver linings of the Ripple case with the SEC has been the industry realizing, this was important for the industry. It's incredibly important for the whole industry to come together and agree on things here in Washington to catalyze that legislative solution that we haven't yet seen.